If you're like me, you've got contacts in every single possible format: email, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And it's becoming harder and harder to stay on top of them. To help me make sense of this mess, I use Smarter Contacts, the free app that automatically creates rich profiles for all my contacts right on my smartphone. The thing I love most about this app are the rich profiles it creates. I can see photos, job titles, company details, and updates from social networks all in one place, all in context. This is a free app and available on all mobile platforms. Head to www.untether.tv/smarter to download it today. Hello everybody, welcome to Untether.tv. My name is Rob Woodbridge, I'm your host. This is that place where you come to every single day for deeper understanding of what's going on in the mobile industry. I'm talking to the guys and the gals and the companies that are paving the way for you and I who are embracing this industry. These are the guys that are doing this without a net because they're inventing things and talking about inventions. I don't think anybody in this space hasn't heard of the company that my guest actually works for. The company has over 15 million users worldwide, over 1.5 billion check-ins. The company is Foursquare. I'm talking with Holger Luedorf, who is the VP of Mobile and International. Holger, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story.
Thanks, Rob, for having me. It's great. Looking forward to it.
Well, so gotta ask right off the front here. How did you end up? How did you get to Foursquare? You got a great past. You got a great company pedigree. What was it about Foursquare that brought you there?
Right. It kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. I was already a heavy Foursquare user very early on. Was invited by a friend of mine who I worked with at Yahoo. Really got into it early on because of the game dynamics. We had like mayorship battles on Yahoo campus for the different buildings and meeting rooms, kind of all, the typical kind of silly stuff that you do with your friends on the platform early on. I was managing handset manufacturer OEM relationships for Yahoo. Before that, I was 5 years at Deutsche Telekom, and really, kind of unexpectedly, because of some friends in the industry and VCs that were involved, there was a connection made between Evan Cohen, our GM, and myself. And it looked like Foursquare at the time was basically looking at a business development person to manage the partnerships with handset manufacturers, mobile carriers internationally, as well as kind of some of the platform players like the Google Android team and Apple and so forth. And they found me, and I was very excited when they called, and it was kind of a no-brainer for me to join the team when they decided to make me an offer.
So how small was the team at that point when you joined?
I think around 20 people.
Okay, so it was like, so you're right at the very beginning of this.
Yeah, I didn't want to move away from San Francisco, so fortunately, jointly, we decided to actually start a presence here, which since then grew to about 25 people today here in San Francisco, and we're still hiring a ton of engineers, always looking for great talent. You can also obviously work for us in our headquarters in New York. But I did spend the first 3 months of my tenure at Foursquare in New York every week, flying out on a red-eye Sunday night, just to kind of be with the team, really understand everything. And I certainly now feel, I'm part of that early core team, which is really exciting. But, quite honestly, we're now at, I think, just over 100 people. We're at this point where we still pretty much everybody knows each other, but we're becoming a big company now. So we're going through all the struggles, but I think so far, the team and especially our execs have done a great job in holding it all together. It's great.
So you guys are obviously known for the check-in. Foursquare is maybe I wouldn't say a victim of your own success, but as you try to morph, because you guys are going through a transition from kind of the check-in to discovery, is what I've seen, is that a lot of emphasis, a lot of competition in that space, but a lot of emphasis on discovering what's around with you now that you've got these kind of 1.5 billion marker points and all of the input from the user base. What is that like, that transition from the check-in world to the discovery world and kind of maturing beyond what you guys started at?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I mean, what happened over the last 2 years or so is that we grew from a few thousand users, really friends of Dennis and Naveen in New York, to over 15 million users today. And those 15 million users have generated more than 1.5 billion check-ins so far. I think what we were known for initially was, purely the checking, letting your friends know where you are, kind of finding out where your friends are relative to you. Also the game dynamics, winning badges and mayorships and so forth. But I think what people are now doing, and what we see very clearly, from our, mobile client usage, is that more and more people come back to Foursquare to use our Explore functionality to get local recommendations that are based on kind of the recommendation of people's social graph. Right? People are starting to use our lists more and more. They want to kind of explore cities. They want to use the deal aspect and kind of leverage the specials that local merchants are offering. So we're going definitely through a transition phase where the users are basically realizing the values that are sitting on top of the check-in, and we at the same time from our side are trying to do a good job educating users on what those things are, and it kind of all comes together right now. It's great.
How much education do you guys have to put into this? I mean, it's one thing. What you hope in a product is a lot of pull, a lot of user pull that says, "Oh, we want to take you in this direction. We want you to go over here. We want you to go over here. We want you to go over here." Foursquare. So, how much of it is you guys guiding, or you guys actually directing?
Right. I think there is definitely some guiding going on. We, are trying to, give this message basically very, very clearly in the press. We are also tweaking the product so that it becomes much more obvious, what those additional values are. We are, for example, trying to emphasize things like Explore and the lists and the specials within the application to kind of make it more obvious, when in the past those were kind of less obvious, I guess, and so people were using more of the check-in functionality. But so there's part of it is kind of tweaking the product. Part of it is actually educating the users out there through our website and through the press. But then I guess the users really themselves kind of start realizing what's going on, and there's a good amount of word of mouth as well. To be honest, I think it's going to take some time. I think when companies are going through a transition phase, when their product morphs into something bigger, probably slightly more complex but slightly more valuable, this always probably takes months, maybe a year or so or more. But it's just something that we've started a few months back, and it's going to take us a little while longer. But I think we're on a good path.
Okay, so I mean that's an interesting spot, right? Because you go from something that's so simple, right? The concept is so simple, like I'm here, stamp me here, and the the UI is very simple as well, right? You've got a very simple UI, a very simple concept, and now you start to move into these things. You start to introduce, discovering, right? And you start to introduce things, like what's around you. And the interface starts to kind of expand a little bit, and the complexity of the product starts to expand a bit. How do you deal with that from a user base? You've got to be very, very cautious as you're moving into this space.
Right. Well, I think first of all, the product team is doing a great job, and the community team to gather feedback from the users. Right. We're hearing from users all the time. We are talking to our merchants. We are, having regular contacts with users, and users are actually volunteering to provide us with information. So, we have a good ear on the ground in how ready our users are and what they're looking for. That's the first thing. But it's certainly challenging, right? I mean, trying to keep the product simple, especially when there's so much opportunity of things that we can offer on top of these 1.5 billion check-ins, and so many so many different types of value that we can bring to the user. The challenge becomes, what's the right balance between, providing those different types of value while at the same time keeping it relatively simple, so that not only the hardcore tech crowd understands this, but also, some of the more, kind of general users out there that we've, already started reaching now. It's definitely a challenge.
So, big challenge, obviously. But what it seems to me is that you guys have moved from really a mobile-only solution, right? Which is literally the Foursquare application. That's what you did. Your website wasn't as rich as it is now, but you started to incorporate what you were doing on the mobile device on the website, like the explore function. What's the reasoning for that? Was there demand from your user base?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mobile client is obviously perfect to look for local recommendations in the moment when you're out and about. But a lot of our users wanted to use the same functionality to maybe plan their Saturday or plan what they were going to do tonight for dinner. Kind of, it's basically more of a planning functionality than kind of in the moment, what should I do right now type scenario. And so that's when we that's why we launched Explore for the web just a few weeks back. I think you will see more of that type of experience going forward. But yes, I mean, a lot of the things are already on our roadmap, but we have a very clear path of when to introduce what, and a lot of that is based on how ready we think the users are, and secondly also how ready the technology is to really support this, right? Because there's certainly the handset technology that needs to be ready. We weren't able to introduce radar before iPhone launched the region monitoring on their platform, just because of battery drain and so forth. But also we had to have a certain number of users and a certain number of check-ins to get that right social signal in order to make valuable recommendations based on people's social graph. So kind of all of those things have to come together to make certain product components work, and our product team with Dennis at the helm are doing a great job at that.
I got to ask, when you start to look at this thing, was there a threshold? I mean, you were there early on, 20 people. Was there a threshold where you could start thinking about certain levels of service or levels of product or additions to the product? Like, at 1 million users, you could do this. At 10 million, you could do this. At 15 million? Or was it just kind of an organic piece where it just made sense?
Yeah, very much organic. I think we have a fairly clear idea of what we're doing over the next 3 to 6 months. I think beyond that, we have a ton of ideas of where we can take the product. But I think the whole local mobile space is so new. There's so much education that has to be done. Technology will evolve. People will have to overcome privacy concerns, which I think we're handling really well. People will learn how to interact with their devices and so forth. So it's very much an organic process. And we certainly didn't have a clear idea of when would be the right month or the right user number for us to introduce certain things. It just kind of happens, probably within like a 6-month cycle.
I'm always amazed, Holger, and maybe you are. You come from Yahoo. It's a big enough company. Deutsche Telekom is a big enough company. But when you look around and you start to think about the influence and the impact that a small company, and 100 people is small, right? That Foursquare has been able to do simply because of its reach. It touches 15 million people from a single product. Doesn't that blow you away sometimes? You just think
every day. I mean, we are, including with Dennis and Naveen, our founders, we're excited about every great message that we're getting from our users, how we kind of help them connect with long lost friends, or help them leverage a totally unexpected deal somewhere. When we hear about those things on Facebook, on Twitter, through our own channels, we still get so excited about it, right? Nobody would have expected 2 years ago that we would be at this point as well. So, the entire team kind of rides on this excitement, and it's kind of the fuel that, keeps the team going. But just today, somebody told me that they had their car repaired at a repair shop in LA, and because of a special 50% off for the first time, they saved like $150 because of Foursquare. They tweeted it out and let us know that way. Those kind of stories are amazing.
I mean, you're having an influence on pricing, like 15 million people using the software and bringing in deals and leveraging the discounts, those kind of things. What you're doing is you're having a material impact on somebody's pocketbook, which is pretty incredible. The reach that you have, you go broad from 15 million users down to that one person that just saved $150. That's got to be the most satisfying thing in the world.
Yeah, it is satisfying. I mean, we think that we're only at the beginning of this journey. I think there's a lot more things that we can offer both to the users as well as the merchants that are working on our platform. The company is still relatively small, both in terms of the size of the team as well as the kind of the size of the user base. But you're absolutely right. It's very, very exciting. Not just the users are excited about the different types of values that we're bringing to the table, but the merchants are starting to really get excited about the ability to basically use Foursquare for capacity management, for offering deals, for driving new customers into stores, for driving loyalty and so forth. So yeah, we couldn't be happier right now.